We're streaming now. We're streaming to Facebook. Hello, Facebook. We're streaming to Twitter, we hope. We're streaming to LinkedIn. Hello, our new LinkedIn friends. And to YouTube. Okay. Mute is off, and we're going to go in 3, 2, 1, and.
Hi, Steve Gillmor here. This is the Gillmor Gang. Joining us from, Massachusetts is Gabby Hayes. Oh, no, wait. It's Dennis Bombrion. Welcome, Dennis.
Who, me? Hi, Steve. Lower third.
Gee Willikers. Excellent.
There you go.
It was perfectly done. From Palo Alto, California, it's Keith Tier.
It is a pleasure to be here on this bright, sunny, blue sky day.
Okay. Do you have any actual data to support that?
I do, but it's all visual. And if I turn my camera around and show you, it's going to take my pretty face away for the audience.
Oh, don't do that.
Okay, well, we don't want to risk that. From Atlanta, Georgia, is Brent Leary.
Well, technically speaking, I'm in Stockbridge, but yeah, sorry.
Now, and could you explain to us what the difference is?
Yes, I could, but
But you
I'd rather not
won't.
at this point.
Excellent.
Is that northeast of Atlanta?
Southeast.
There you go.
She had one right.
Yeah.
From New York, it's Frank Radis.
So fantastically great. They named it twice. Thank you very much. Hello, gang. Good to see you again. But
And okay, and winding this up is with a very healthy computer, it looks like, is Michael Markman.
So far, so good. I am on the air. And by the way, rather than turn my camera around, I'll just show you a photo. No, maybe I can't.
Good luck with that.
Put it right in front of your.
Never mind.
Great.
Never mind Zoom. Anyway, it's a bright, sunshiny day here for real.
All right.
So it looks like what it looks like, in other words.
Looks like what it looks like, except I'm in a cul-de-sac and I don't see the mountain when I look out my window.
Okay, well,
You got any smoke from the fires?
It doesn't seem to be. It might be there, but the sky seems very blue. We had a couple weeks ago 3 days plus 100 degrees around here, and since then it's just been seasonally warm temperatures, usually under 80.
we had the smoke here in New York. I could see it for about 2 days.
Yes, I had email from a friend in New York who said his smoke alarm started shrinking, and he believes it was from the Western fires.
Now you can see. Well, yeah, I have a view that looks out pretty long distance. It was really deep, and it also turned the sky bright red when the sun set. It was pretty amazing. It was
We had it too. I had to take one of my smoke detectors down because it was going off for no reason.
insane. See, now if we could only harness the power of that.
yeah, let me know how that goes.
I'm telling you, there's a science fiction story in there somewhere. I'm thinking about it.
So
My friend couldn't turn his smoke detector off. He was trying everything until he finally filled the sink with water and drowned it.
That's what.
You couldn't remove the battery?
That's the way to do it.
No, he couldn't remove the battery. I don't know. It's some kind of sealed 10-year battery.
What? Crap.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. They don't have replaceable batteries anymore.
That's just like that's an Apple scheme to get you to buy more of them
Well, the sensor,
it's-
every 10 years.
the problem is the sensor. The sensor is only good for a period of time, and they make a battery that matches the typical life of the sensor, because the sensor is constantly evaluating the airstream coming through it.
Hmm.
It's
See,
a real thing.
I say this about the Gillmor Gang all the time. If there's not one Gillmor Gang where I come away going, damn, that sensor thing. I didn't know that.
Who knew we were
I'm not-
censored?
Seriously, I'm not kidding. It's a thing. I had no idea. I enjoy that.
Such a sheltered, delicate flower you are, Frank.
Teachable moment. No, I knew there was a sensor there. I didn't realize that it was constantly measuring the flow. Constantly measuring. That's something I didn't realize.
I
Okay.
thought Frank was going to make a really sophisticated point when he started the sentence with, "There is not one Gillmor gang." I thought in my head, the
There
next sentence was,
there are many Gillmor. No,
there are many Gillmor gangs, and then I was expecting.
Yes,
a
look, if
philosophical-
the
Hold on, wait a minute.
MCU,
Hold on. I
the
want to keep.
MCU can go into the world of the multiverse, so can the Gilmore gang.
Yeah. So wait a minute. What
There are
was
alternate universes with alternate us's.
Okay. Anyway, there you
Multiverse
go.
is not an approved word in the Dennis Pombriant dictionary.
Oh, why not?
What is?
Oh,
Still trying.
multiverse.
Why
yeah,
not?
Keith can, after I unravel the mysteries of what I just said,
Multiverse.
Keith, please continue. But multiverse, do you use that word often in your writing?
Me?
Dennis, yes.
Usually only when I'm talking about Homer
Simpson?
or Shakespeare.
Simpson. Who said that?
Right.
No, who said
Hey.
Simpson?
No, I thought that was very, very fast. That just shows Dennis's intelligence. It
He's
exceeds
thought
all
about
mine,
this.
'cause
He-
I would not have taken the verse word and leveraged it in that way myself.
Is that what you were going to say, Keith?
To be totally honest, I don't think I was going to say anything. I
Didn't-
was just
yeah,
commenting
did
on
you say
Frank's
that
first
he
part
was
of his
trying to say
sentence. How
something?
disappointed I was, given how awesome the first part of the sentence was, that he didn't go on to
Well, we'll release
philosophize
it.
about the nature of the gang.
We'll release it as a sneak peek so that you can refresh your memory.
How did we get down this rabbit hole? That's weird. I'm just.
Because it's not on my list.
But your list is all blurred out.
Blurred. Yeah,
Yeah.
the blur effect
Oh.
works on the list.
Oh, it's even worse.
Yeah.
It's the black
All
gown.
part of the plan. Okay, so how many people know who Amy Klobuchar is?
I know.
Yeah. Boy, she's
Hey.
she's putting it to the technology people.
Yeah, no shit. Keith, what do you think about this health misinformation rider on section 203 or whatever it's called, 230?
Yeah. So, well, look, let's just start by acknowledging that there is a lot of health misinformation everywhere on the internet.
Can you turn your volume up just a slight touch?
Yeah, let's start by acknowledging that there is lots of health misinformation everywhere on the internet, Facebook included, and that it has consequences. The hospitals are full in 3 states, Florida, Nevada, and I forget what the third one is.
Oh, Texas. Yeah.
Texas.
And it's Texas and Missouri, not Nevada that I know of.
Right, with non-vaccinated victims of the Delta variant. And just today, the UK announced they've found.
Do you think
Yes.
that they're victims if they're not vaccinated?
Well, some of the, it's interesting. I've seen interviews with some people who got sick and have now chosen to get vaccinated but didn't before. And in their own minds, they had rational reasons why they chose not to be vaccinated. We can disagree with them, but they were subject to various information that led them to believe it was best not to get vaccinated. Probably not smart, definitely not smart in my view, but it is what it is, and there's a lot of them. So what
But
Amy
don't we have traffic
Klobuchar,
laws? Don't we have traffic laws so that when you come to a 4-way stop, somebody has the right of way and the rest don't?
yes, but I don't see how that's relevant to this conversation.
Okay.
And by the way, it is the one on the right.
Yeah, but
Not
so
down
back
here
to,
it is.
Thank you, Brent.
so
I
back to
find
Amy so there's 2 current debates about how to deal with this. One is that there should be a mandate that you have to be vaccinated. Like, for example, my kids have to be to go to college. And the second debate is that the misinformation should be deemed illegal and punishable by law. in some way. Section 230 being modified is one possible way that Amy Klobuchar has chosen. I personally do not think you can erase disinformation from human experience. I think it's a failed mission right at the beginning. And secondly, I think it says that the only legitimate views that you can publish are correct views. And as soon as there's a definition of a correct view in any domain, that basically to me is as close as you get to fascism. So I don't actually like this left-wing fascism at all.
Right, and we understand. But my question is, what do you think of the efficiency of this particular gambit? Is it going to happen? Is it going to pass?
It is not going to happen. It's all politics.
Well, of course it's politics, but is it going to happen?
No, it's not. No.
Okay, so anybody think that this might, with some modifications, actually become law?
It's a gray area, because I think what we're really witnessing, and you see this in politics all the time, you create news and you create coverage for something that's not quite real, not quite right, but it scares enough people into doing the right thing, and it goes away and everybody's happy afterwards. Politicians have been doing this for a long time. I think if Klobuchar wanted to get serious, she wouldn't be aiming at such a general purpose mandate that's almost impossible to implement. She'd be talking about regulating who gets to use social media and how much they get to use it, as I've discussed here before.
I think that part of it also it's interesting because the whole conversation about Section 230 came up about what seems like 3 months ago. And it's come back around. And when it first happened, when I first heard about what she was trying to do, I felt like it was a way to bring that conversation back onto the stage and open a door for it. I actually mentioned to a friend, I don't see it happening, but I see it keeping that door open so that conversation stays out in the forefront, I thought. And the other thing that I thought was I kept singing over and over in my head the song by the Beatles, Revolution, and changed the word to regulation.
Can I tell you a true story? I live in a condominium. I used to be the president of the association. We had over 300 units, and water and sewage was supplied through the common area fee. So we had an interest in keeping water flow down. And about 15 years ago, we mandated that everybody had to go to low flow toilets. The original equipment was like 5 gallons per flush, and we got things down to about, I think, a gallon and a half. And we told the people, our constituents, that they had to do it, and if they didn't do it, we would, because there's a section in Massachusetts law that enabled us to do that. So the big pushback we got wasn't the fact that we were going to low flow toilets. The big pushback we got was, you can't come into my home and change my toilet. So we had a big meeting of the association, and lots and lots and lots of people came, and they were pretty irate, until we got to a point in the discussion where I said, we don't want to change your toilets. We want you to change your toilets. And after that, it was over. People just said, oh, okay. The same kind of thing is applicable here. People are hearing what they want to hear about mandates and inoculations. But in point of fact, if you position it right, if you tell people the right story instead of going off on tangents, you can probably get to herd immunity, I think.
Well, what we're seeing is that vaccination rates have suddenly jumped now that the focus has shifted in terms of communication. And I think it's important to remember that the Klobuchar bill doesn't forbid anyone from doing anything. It just removes immunity from a certain class of lawsuits. So it's an incentive. And what she's saying, what she says in the bill is not that that they can't post misleading information, but that if they algorithmically promote misleading information, that they don't have an immunity from suits against that. So it's it's not as draconian as the headline would let you believe.
I didn't think
But
it
it's
was
founded
too.
on it's founded on a technical misunderstanding, because the algorithm is not content aware. It doesn't look for what it's about at all. The algorithm looks for a match based on statistics between an audience and other audiences, based on historical evidence as well.
Well, I agree,
so
but
she's probably got in her head that there's some kind of clever dictionary in Facebook's algorithm, but there isn't.
no, it could work the other way. She could be asking them to add a dictionary to their algorithm.
Doesn't work. There's a whole history of AI and dictionaries that proves it doesn't work. It's keyword stuff just doesn't work. It's all Bayesian stats.
Well, it could be more sophisticated than simply a keyword dictionary. And the issue is it's really going to be complicated because it's based on lawsuits. So anyone who objects to what's going on is going to have to bring a case and prove a case in court. So it's a really high hurdle for anyone to get over.
Which is what I think the significance of this is, which is a conversation starter for what is actually going to happen.
What are we doing? We're talking about it.
No, I agree with you, Steve. I think that is exactly what it is. It's funny, my 18-year-old, who's now been double vaxxed, and if you remember, he was a skeptic. He didn't want to get vaxxed. He's now had the vax. He comes into my room every day with a story about people's negative reactions to the vaccination, even though he's had it. It's to do with heart disease, to do with thrombosis, or anything you can find that is scientifically, everyone agrees the vax probably caused, but it's a very small number.
And it's dwarfed by the number of long-haul COVID survivors having the same symptoms.
Yeah, but he's not a stupid kid. He's smart. And I'm just going to tell you, there's a predisposition to not trusting authority that he has in spades. And he looks for evidence of it. And I think there's lots of people like that.
Oh, there is.
I think you're right. But,
I have a vax skeptic in my life as well who does the same thing. He'll always tell me about these cases. I don't know how well those cases are filtered. Are some of them just coincidental, or are they all causal?
But that said, I would favor a mandate. I would personally favor the government saying everyone has to get vaxxed. I'd be totally for that. That's social good right there.
Just not for any social network.
That everyone has to get vaxxed.
It's a joke. It's a joke.
Well, as we went on the air today, the city of New York, Mayor of New York is talking about a mandate. There are lots of people talking about doing mandates for school kids in the fall, and universities, as you mentioned. So there's the NFL. Did you all see the NFL's mandate? It's a happening thing. It's going to happen in a patchwork fashion, starting from the grassroots, but it's going to be achieved.
You're going to get that, and you're going to also get a mandatory passport, COVID passport, if not a digital thing, some kind of stamp in your own passport, whatever it is, which, by the way, for, I don't know, 100 years. Yeah, I have one. I have this Verify thing. Yeah.
This is an app that came out this week that basically scans your paper, and then they validate it, and you get first a level 1, then a level 2, and it goes in your wallet on your phone, and it's basically fully authentic.
What is the name of that app?
Like, who made the app, and who's getting the data that goes into that app?
GOGETVAX.
What's your question, Brent?
But who's making the app, and who has access to all the data that app is going to collect?
You're saying that's the question.
That's my question. Yeah, who has access to the data that all of these people are going to start scanning into this app?
I
don't care.
It's like Face
Really?
ID.
I
Yeah,
have a
okay, I don't
question.
believe that.
I have another question. Does the app confirm the information, or can you use a forged vaccine certificate?
No, they confirm it by you have to give them the lot number and in my case there's lot number and it's Moderna and a date, and then they certify it by looking up on the record system.
Who's they? Who's the developer of the app?
Oh, come on, you know who they are, Brent.
All of them.
Oh yeah, them guys. Yeah, sure.
It's them.
I'm
It's
gonna
them.
scan all my data.
All
there.
of them.
You know, there is one that is a company called Verifly that works with British Airways and American Airlines, and it's you know, I didn't care. My first question was, geez, who's getting all of this? And then I read through their terms, and it was, you know, they're getting it, and then they're distributing it, and by the way, they could probably sell it. But you know, what is it? It's, am I vaccinated? Did I fill out, you know, did I fill out certain forms? It's not, it doesn't have my social security number in it. It does have my passport number in it and a photograph of my passport. I guess there's a lot of information that went to it, but you literally walk through the airport as though nothing happened with this thing. You hold it up, it's got a big green check mark on it, and it only works for those two airlines. And I think it's pretty amazing. And it will change the way that flying occurs on British Airways.
It's just a matter of getting the messaging right, I think.
Hey, I have a Clear membership, so I'm not against this stuff.
Right.
When I hear somebody say, "Yeah, they made an app," I'm getting more curious as to who's they and what's the data privacy policy behind the they, and who else has access to this data beyond
So
they.
there's a larger question here that you're kind of bringing up, Brent, which is who is the they that's going to certify that the certifiers are okay? Is that the government? Because according to Keith, and I agree with him, there's a tremendous amount of antipathy about the government getting into a leadership position in this issue. Whether it's justified or not.
As opposed to giving all your data to some private industry?
Well, the advantage of a private industry is that it would reduce the scope of an exploit.
Yeah, and as long as it was a piece of private industry that you cared about or believed in or trusted, or
in the case of the one I use.
One issue,
Yeah,
one issue with private firms is that sometimes they go out of business, and the data that they have is an asset that they sometimes use in their liquidation to try and get some cash.
Yeah, well, that's the former president's theory is that the government is going to go out of business.
Well, no, yeah, that may be that may be his theory, but you know, I mean, I've had it. It happened to me early in the internet world, where I had signed up with some application for something, and 6 months later, I was starting to get spam from a lot of people, and I had used a unique name with them, so I know that the spam was coming from their list.
In the case of the one that I shared just now, they use state level.
When you say shared, you shared it to the internal chat that nobody can see except us.
Yeah, and
So
the
what are you
picture,
talking
I meant showing the picture. They use state level immunization records to validate, and if they can't, then they don't validate you. And those state records are public records available to certified lookups. So they must have got certified somehow. It is a private company and it's currently free, but they are going to start, well, they're going to stop it being free after the end of July, they say. So,
well, if Dennis is right, and I think he might be, it's a matter of getting the language right. And, you know, introducing the notion that whatever the decision you make is, it's a personal decision. But it has public ramifications. So, you know,
true.
where, yes?
It's meaningless if companies and venues don't use them.
Well, that was where I was about to go, which is, it seems to me that the business community is where we're going to see the first effects of.
They have to buy in.
Yeah. And they have to, you know, if you have a choice between buying a product from company A that doesn't have any skin in the game, pardon the expression, of control of the pandemic versus one that does? Which one are you going to do business with?
So I have a question along those lines to Brent, who may know more about this than I do. What is the NFL's scheme to make sure that everyone is vaccinated? Is it show your card, or is there going to be an NFL pass, or what? Do you know?
I don't know. I think they're still at the team level. They're putting it all on the teams to handle this. It's not like a universal league policy, I don't think, because some teams are doing okay, and some teams are like there's outbreaks. And
well, this is employees, not fans, right?
This is players.
Yeah, I mean, it's for the NFL employees, not for people who show up at the stadium, right?
Then it doesn't really matter. And
right
anyway,
now, it's just about the people on the field.
Yeah,
I think.
It's just a PR thing, actually.
Well, it's a money thing, because if these teams aren't getting their players to get vaccinated, and then these players get sick and they can't play, that's money.
Yeah.
And when it starts hitting the budget, the bottom line, that's why you're hearing all this talk now. It's the NFL does not want to have to cancel games.
Yeah.
Because that TV contract starts making them pay back that money.
I'm surprised the NFL, the medical teams in the NFL are saying to their guys, I would imagine that most of the players are vaccinated, wouldn't you think?
Yeah,
you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. There's one of the best receivers in the league says, I might have to question if I need to go to retire because I'm not sure I want to take this vaccination. And then he found out that if he did retire, he would have to pay back his team $22 million of his signing bonus. And then he deleted that text.
The Euro Football Championship was interesting because in Hungary, which was one of the major stadiums, they did a mandate that said you must be double vaxxed for the crowd. And they had a stadium with 75,000 in, everyone double vaxxed, and it was normal. Whereas in France, they didn't do that, so they were restricted to one person every 4 seats, and it was like half empty. The players were not widely vaccinated because across all the different countries, the age range for the vaccination and the number of vaccines they had available was totally different from country to country. So Team A could be playing Team B, where Team B, no one's vaxxed, and Team A, everyone's vaxxed. So they all lived in bubbles. So they had basically team bubbles, and then varying regimes to do with mandated vaccinations for attendance. So it's kind of all over the place. And I think with Delta variant now coming up, especially rapidly as well, we're looking at a conversation now which is talking about even vax people having to wear masks again indoors, and we're going back to the past. Even though we have very high levels of vaccination.
Yeah, but the reality, just from the numbers, is that if a sufficient number of people were vaccinated that currently are not, that the issue of masks would go away.
Yeah, that's why I think a mandate's the best. 100% vaccination is the best.
But the issue of mandate, I'm going to throw this wild card in because Tina keeps wanting me to say it. What about Eric Clapton? What about Eric Clapton?
What about him?
He won't perform in a stadium where people have to are forced to be vaccinated.
Yeah, but
now
he won't be performing.
Here's by the way, here's what I say to Eric Clapton. Well, you know what? Fuck you. It's
Wow.
Exactly. I mean, I have this vision of this. What happened? He went away.
Who went away?
All of a sudden, you're not there.
Let me pick it
Your
up.
vision went away.
Let me pick it up. I think the real debate at the abstract level is it okay for the state to impose, things that you have to do? And Dennis is always arguing with me, saying, what about traffic lights and everything? The answer is yes, there are things where the collective good justifies a must do. And you know, the only debate really is what are those things, and we often disagree whether it should be applied to certain things versus other things. When it comes to people dying, it's pretty obvious. You just impose a must do, like we do with measles and mumps and lots of other polio, you know, all those injections you have as a kid over and over again, tetanus. It's pretty obvious that there are some things that society requires in order to function. And one of them is not dying.
Well, Keith, now that I've got you converted to my thinking, I want to change. I want to change.
Careful, I'm going to have to be an oppositionist soon if you keep.
Yeah,
Okay, so here it is. Here it is. Quick poll. If I told you that you could take a shot that would prolong your life potentially by years, would you take the shot?
yes.
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 Yeah, of course you would. Of course you would. All of that means it boils down to the
Right.
messaging we're using.
Wait, Brent's just looking up at the ceiling. Come on, man.
Brent's trying to figure out how many more years he's got to work.
It's also what are the side effects and risks?
Yeah, that was the thing I was going to say. What is the side? Like, do I grow
I
a
wasn't giving
third
you that
leg or
choice.
something?
Oh, come, you know what? My suggestion
If I could
is,
live forever, I'll take a third leg. I don't know.
well, honest to God, there's probably nothing in this that I haven't done in the last 40 years anyway. So I'm not worried about that. I don't think that's a problem. Honestly, the question here is, what do you think of a government mandate? I think that's the question that Keith is putting out there, and quite honestly, that's an insta poll to me. I personally
Didn't we already have that with you know, as was mentioned, it was by Dennis that, you know, if you want to put your kid into school, they want to see a vaccination record.
And I also think that we might not have done it since the variant has gone so crazy and really changed the numbers. And I would personally, right now, I might have said no back then. I probably said yes, but right now I say yes. I'm okay with it.
So government mandate, you're okay with?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how does that work? If they get 50.1% people saying that they're okay with that, is that going to happen?
I pretty much feel the same way about that as I feel about Eric Clapton.
Well, I understand. That was why I reluctantly brought it up.
The hard thing is enforcement, because
Yeah.
the government will do it, possibly.
I don't think the government will do it.
Well, that's why I said possibly. They will or they won't. But even if they did, and we all think they should, if we all think they should, you then.
Well, do we all think they should?
Yeah, I don't think they should. I for all the reasons that Brent has, stated.
Well, Brent kind of states
Like, who's
things without
they?
actually stating them.
Who made them, God?
They
We
got
did when we
voted
voted
into
for them.
office. You know, the problem isn't the mandate. The problem is spineless politicians who think about the next election.
Yeah, you're talking about Congress, spineless politics. Who
Well,
knew?
yeah, we're talking about governors too. There's nobody yet who stood up, maybe with the exception of Liz Cheney, who stood up and said, "Oh, fuck it, this is just a job. I don't care if you don't vote for me. I'm going to do the job I was elected for."
That word, but yes.
Pardon me? Oh,
Well, she said it to Jim Jordan.
You know, this is getting exciting, guys.
pardon my
Honestly,
French.
and
Now
me
the
too.
French,
I apologize.
are the leaders here. The French are saying, "Excuse me, take the vaccine or get the hell out."
That's right.
They are?
Yeah.
Yeah, and a million people instantly signed up to get a vaccine
Wow.
after Macron made his announcement.
It's not more people because the government and the people that you can't deal with, you can't deal with.
Okay, so as the owner of the copyright patented Gillmor Gang poll, I'm going to show you how it's done. Of the people on this show, how many, I want you to raise your hand if you believe this, believe that there will be a government mandate? Crickets.
Well, I believe that, I don't believe that there, although I think there should be, I don't believe there will be.
That's a good.
I'm with the guy in the
weaselly
black
kind
t-shirt.
of,
Dennis thinks there will be.
Gratis response. No, Dennis doesn't. think it will.
I
I think the
look,
real question.
I remain,
Yeah.
honestly, I remain cautiously optimistic.
Hang on a second.
Now, here's
Our
another
producer
one.
says that Dennis raised his hand.
Yeah.
Is that true?
I raised my hand, and I think you need to revise the question if you want to call it a national mandate, because we're already seeing small mandates at the grassroots level.
I totally agree with you that small mandates are, in fact, what's going to happen.
Right.
Okay,
Well, all right, here's a
National
variant. Here's a variant.
I
Will
revised.
there be an official government certification of vaccination that all the small mandates can rely on?
Yes.
There should be, but there won't be because they're inept when it comes to tech.
Yeah. Well, I agree with Keith on that one.
Oh, who can they hire to do it?
Nobody. Because
Whoever
nobody's
made that
going to
app
take the
that Keith was
job.
talking
What about the ninjas? Boy, they could probably do it.
Okay.
The
I think
cyber
we have to
ninjas?
hire some
Yeah.
Russians.
Time to move along.
Cyber ninjas. Oh, is that
Get
on the
some
list?
Russians.
Are we moving? Are we
Topic
moving on?
light.
Are we moving on to
Topic
another
light.
topic?
A
I have
new
a, I have
feature
a,
of the OBS broadcast system.
I have a topic I would like to bring up to the group.
Boy,
I'd be
good luck with it.
curious. Can I? May I give it a shot? May I?
I'm not going to authorize it, but
So,
I have
so-
no control.
so on both of the space shots in the last, I guess, 10 days, is it on your list?
Of course.
All right, good. So both of the space shots in the last 10 days, I posted an image on my Facebook page of the launch of both of the spacecrafts, the one that dropped out of an Virgin thing from the airplane and the one that shot straight up in the air like a flying Ferrari. That thing was incredible. And then the landing. Oh my God, it was like a 1960s science fiction movie. It was spectacular.
You can see the strings, right?
Oh, it was incredible. You could see the thing shaking as it went down, as all you needed was a line. And I thought the responses I got a few hundred responses, most of them for the Virgin Galactic launch were absolutely totally negative. And how dare these billionaires spend their money this way? And couldn't they spend their money on this, that, and the other thing? And there is no scientific reason for doing this, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, that's my favorite. There's no scientific reason.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. How much did we spend on the space program to have something go into space and return to the exact same spot?
For God's sakes, we wouldn't have Velcro if we didn't have the space program, but
About
that's another story.
$120 billion in 2007 money.
So I
Is
just,
that plus or minus? I mean, what are you saying? Is that good or bad?
You asked the question, what did we spend? I'm saying in 2007 money, which is the most recent numbers I have, it was about $120 billion.
That's almost as much as Bezos is worth, huh?
That was
almost.
back in 1961, too, when they were putting it together, the total cost of the program was around 30 billion in 1960s dollars. That was a lot of money.
Okay, so Frank, your point?
I've totally forgot what my point was. No, the point I was trying to make was the fact that that when I posted about Virgin, it was all about not paying taxes and these horrible billionaires and blah blah blah. And when I posted about Bezos, it wasn't that it was entirely different, but it was not so nasty, which I found really kind of interesting. That there were more things that were said about the Bezos launch, which were funny, than about the caustic replies about the Branson launch. And
Yeah, but that might have been because Bezos
they were
go first. If he had gone
exactly. I was going to say it certainly could be just that everybody had already gotten all of their anti-taxing, kind of like anti-vaxxing, anti-billionaire ranting out of their system. But what really surprised me the most was the fact that there was a tremendous amount of scientific knowledge from these launches. There were new things that we had not seen before. There were, when every space launch adds to the information bank of the space launch that follows it. And to me, space is like, it is so awe-inspiring in and of itself that there was no reason to do anything other than to say, oh, this is incredible. I felt a huge emotional impact, more actually on the Bezos launch than on the other one. I was really emotionally taken by it because I had covered launches. I covered the launch of two of the space shuttles, and I've spent time in NASA in both Florida and in Houston. To me, it was and is one of the most amazing things in our lifetime.
Frank, can I ask you, is there really scientific data that we got, or is it engineering advances?
You know what? Probably both. I think certainly engineering advances, no doubt about that. Those engineering advances you could see. As far as the scientific advances, I don't know. I can't imagine that there weren't.
I could give you one concrete example. At the press conference after the Bezos launch, he made a really interesting point and explained it in great depth. He said the booster that they used that day was actually the second stage of a bigger rocket. That it was, its fuel system was using liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen, which is what you typically use in a second stage. In the first stage, you use liquid oxygen, but you use a hydrocarbon, a petroleum, like jet fuel, basically, to get off the ground. So his point was we were using this to prove the second stage because we have bigger plans. So
there you go. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I get all freaked out of. It's great stuff to hear that kind of thing. I love that stuff.
Yeah.
I used to cover. I don't know if you know, Michael. I'm sure you'll remember Jules Bergman. I was Jules Bergman's producer in Houston. It was unbelievable time in my life to travel with this guy who really was Mr. Space. And he was
with ABC, wasn't he?
Yeah, and yes. I was with ABC when I started, and for a very long time, and I ended up becoming his producer in Houston and at the Cape, and it was phenomenal to fly in an airplane with him.
He was one of the best of the TV correspondents covering this beat.
Yeah,
absolutely, one of the best.
And that made it for me exciting. I mean, he made it come alive. And I thought that I know Cronkite was pretty good with his space stuff, though, I got to admit. But Jules was Mr. Space. There you go. That's it.
Wow.
So I just learned this morning that there is an actual rocket science engineering reason for why that device looked so much like a penis. The capsule was larger than the rocket because it's designed for a larger rocket.
See, look, that would be, now Brent is going, what the hell have I got? This is the third interesting factoid that I have learned today from the Gillmor gang. The third. Don't ask me what the other two were. I just know that there were two others.
So that's a new job in the cabinet, Space Moil.
It's Moil.
Okay.
Is moil a Hebrew word, Steve? Because
you bet it is.
I don't know. I'm late to the party.
It's a Yiddish word derived from a Hebrew word. The Hebrew word is moel.
Yeah, there you go. Now explain it.
A ritual circumciser.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now that you say it, my memory banks have reminded me that I did know that.
And that will happen in space someday. I'm just saying.
Weightless moil.
Zero crap.
Zero gravity. Okay.
Hey, Brett, how you doing?
Yeah.
He's still alive.
Did we get past that 60 minutes? No, we didn't.
No. He's already contributed tremendously, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Southeast Atlanta.
Okay, so there's a new Prince track, Get Happy or something like that. I don't know what it's called. What do we think about the new Prince album after recorded basically, 20 years ago?
2010. No, I get my pre-order comes, I hope next week, so I'll let you know. They still haven't. come-
I'm really interested in how amazingly, to me, the corollary to this is how Hendrix albums felt then and now like they were just recorded.
I think it has a lot to do with making sure that we're not making sure, but that the creativity of the musician, and Hendrix was clearly just a huge innovator in guitar playing style and sound. There was just nobody that played like that. And Prince was, to me, I don't know, Brent, to me, Prince was sort of the ultimate live act. I love listening to Prince's records. They're great. They really are. They're tight and they're crisp and there's a whole lot. But the thing about Prince to me was his stage presence and his live performance, kind of like Elvis.
I'll just. Stick
I saw that look on your face when I compared Prince to Elvis, but I actually
You could say this. I would say the same thing about Hendrix. Hendrix in live performance had an audacity, a sexuality, a challenge to the audience that isn't on the records. That's a whole new dimension to him.
Well, that may be true,
If
but
you look at films of
personally-
Hendrix, they are absolutely astonishing at just how audacious he was as a performer.
Yeah, I mean,
not
that's
just as a
fine.
musician.
But what I'm talking about is that the recorded record. And as far as I'm concerned, Hendrix albums went far beyond anybody in music at that time.
Yeah.
And that was evidenced by Paul McCartney in his fascinating conversations with what's that guy's name?
Rick Rubin.
Yeah.
You know, I wonder. I mean,
Let me finish the thought, Frank. Basically, Hendrix was seen by the Beatles as being the most important thing out there. They knew that they were onto something with Sgt. Pepper and, just in general, their studio expertise, but they recognized Hendrix not for his performance on stage, but for his ability to define something, which the only person that I think really at the time at the same level commented on was Miles Davis. Miles Davis basically said, this guy's way ahead and he will be 50 years from now.
I thought it was interesting, and the point I wanted to make was that the music that you heard on the first Hendrix records, which made the entire world turn their heads pretty quickly, it was his trio, which was the sound and the same presentation that he did when he played live, which I thought was also very interesting. And you could hear in his live playing, even with his stage presence, what happened on that record. So there was an interesting correlation between him playing live and him being recorded.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. What I'm saying, though, is that if you look at the history of music, that there is this point where recorded music became a thing. From that moment on, there are maybe 3 or 4 artists that define the times. And I think Prince is going to be seen in retrospect at that level, because I didn't see him that way. I saw him as being talented as a, who am I to evaluate Prince? I mean, it's a joke. But the thing that I think you hear in this latest release of this old record that he basically, did, it was also a trio record, interestingly. It was, he hired a drummer and a bass player and added some keyboards, but for the most part, they cut it live. And it feels like that. And if you listen to these tracks as they dribble out, they have this something about them where you think, why didn't he release that? And the answer, I think, is that he knew it would be released.
The answer is also, I think, that the market can only absorb so much material at a certain rate.
Absolutely.
But he didn't care about that.
Prince could create
not why
material at a much faster rate than the market could absorb it.
Yeah, but he didn't care about that part of it. I mean,
Yeah, but what about the Beatles?
He was only
though?
about
they
the
were always
creation side.
coming out with those things. Beatles
Yeah.
didn't saturate the market, and they put out a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but there was a time in the early to mid 80s where Prince, he was doing an album a year, and he did the Times' first two albums, which were really good. All the stuff that you hear on the album was Prince. He wrote it, he did all the instruments, and the only thing that wasn't on there was he had Mars Day singing, but all of the actual instrumentation was him on the first two ones. And then he would hire a band to go out on the road because, well, he couldn't play all the instruments in a live concert setting. So he was doing his stuff, he was doing their stuff, and then he would do like songs for what's the group that did Manic Monday, and then he had what's that the female
The girl group.
The Bangles, right?
The Bangles.
Bangles,
The Bangles.
yeah.
He was doing their songs for them. He did Sheila E.'s first couple of albums. So he was trying, and he would go under pseudonyms like Jamie Starr, if you look, gets all the credit for the Time stuff. And then he was doing a song with Sheena Easton, Sugar Walls, and it was credited to Alexander Nevermind. So he was trying he was finding all these different ways to get his music out underneath different vehicles, but he still did it.
I think it's amazing that there's been not a resurgence of people looking at Prince's work. I think there actually has been a resurgence, but I actually think that since Prince passed away, that his presence in the entertainment scene has only gotten bigger.
I think there's still a lot of people, and I watch a lot of these reaction videos. You guys ever watch those reaction videos?
When the kids never heard it before?
They've never heard it before. Or there's like, oh, everybody keeps telling me about this guy, Prince. I don't know anything about him. They tell me to play this, and then they're like blown away. And it's really, I find it really enjoyable to watch these first reactions. But I think you are seeing a lot. And I think once you start going down, the Prince rabbit hole, you get to the Purple Rains and the Kisses, which, everybody talks about. That's like that. Some of those Kiss, Purple Rain, well, Purple Rain is up there, but some of these songs that are the more popular ones, they're not even in my top 20. And like the best thing that you see on YouTube with this, go and just look up Prince rehearsals or Prince sound checks. There's a ton of these videos where he's doing a sound check before a live event, and he's putting his group he's barking out orders. He's telling them to do this and do that, layout, do this, all like he's got them like when you mentioned Miles Davis, he treats them like Miles Davis treated his band. I mean, he is literally a band leader in the sense of a jazz band leader. And he also knows how to play all the instruments. And he also knows how to write. And he also did all the sound. He played a big role in the sound engineering. There's a lot of those videos out there with Susan Rogers. She talks about how she worked with him and how much he knew about every instrument, every piece of production equipment. He knew it all. I don't think you'll ever see anybody quite like that again.
Yeah, and I think Hendrix wrote that book. Hendrix basically all he did was to record. Yes, he would go on stage, but he would record it. He was constantly recording.
Looking back at Hendrix, at the origin story of Hendrix is pretty interesting. And seeing the bands that he played with, he worked with James Brown, for example.
The Isley Brothers.
The Isley Brothers. They were, it's just an insane kind of progression from the kind of music that he played. But interestingly enough, all of those double stops that he did and all of that music, for example, on the Woodstock movie, when a lot of people had a chance to see and hear him pretty big time for the first time, were all R&B, old R&B riffs, which he just, used like nobody else had before. He just did some amazing stuff. Crazy.
His I don't know what her job was. She was basically his assistant.
Like the sound engineer?
No, I'm talking about a woman. I've heard all the tapes because they were circulated among a lot of musicians mostly in the 70s. But, basically his work tapes that he would do on cassettes, they're like what Frank's talking about at Woodstock. I learned something the other day, which is that the Woodstock performance by Hendrix was more than an hour long. It was evidently the longest concert performance that he ever did.
Wow.
And, it was a hugely experimental gig where he was pulling together some elements of the Band of Gypsies, which was his war buddy on bass and Buddy Miles on drums. And there was some conflict between some of those people. And he was also trying to bring back in his drummer from the Experience. And then he was also integrating a bunch of R&B players, as Frank talks about. So that performance was not baked. It was never released as a record,
But
and he
but
died
was he
soon
baked?
thereafter. Sorry?
Was he baked when he was doing it though?
I would think so. But,
Do you know how hard it is to do that, Brent, by the way?
what, bake?
No, to play baked.
I actually can answer
Let
an
me
emphatic no on that one.
let me tell. No, you know what? Let me not tell you. No, I don't know. I have nothing.
What are you
So-
trying to say, Frank?
I'm not trying to say anything, Steve. I just picked up on yet another great.
Well, I mean, you
Gilmore
actually,
factoid.
of everybody on this call, you're actually the only one who actually plays guitar.
Yes, I do. Yes.
Okay. So I'm asking you about the bass comment. Is bass harder for a guitar player, or
I didn't hear that
or were you
question.
talking about some other?
I was talking about something entirely different, but I can answer your
No,
question.
it wasn't bass, it was baked.
Yeah.
That's what I
Playing
was
bait.
asking about.
Yeah.
Playing bait
what I thought.
versus
Games.
playing not baked.
Now, I can answer your question, having been a bass player for a very long time. Even somebody wrote a book in Washington recently about musicians in DC of the 60s. And I was like in the book for about a page, mostly about bass playing, which I thought was weird because I only played the bass for like 3-4 years, something like that in my musical career. And quite honestly, I got this job to play in a kind of a strip club in Washington, and I had not ever seen had I ever seen real, honest to God, human flesh girl parts. And my guitar teacher said, you need to go down and play in this club. It was on 14th Street, DC, which was pretty notorious in 68, 69. You need to go down there and play, but you need to go play bass. And I said, I've never played bass in my life. He says, it's easy. It's the top 4 strings of your guitar. The singer will tell you what key it's in. So I went down to this club and I walked in and there were half naked girls dancing. And it was like, I think I was 14 at the time, and they snuck me into the club, and then they had this great time getting me drunk between sets. The bartenders took care of me. Anyway, that's another
So
story.
you thought to yourself, hey, this is a job I could
Oh,
do.
this is a job I love, and quite honestly, playing guitar to playing bass, it actually worked okay.
So I gotta
that's
ask
part
Frank a
about-
question though.
What?
So is it easier to play a bass or a lead guitar when you're baked? Which one?
Well, for me, it was guitar. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So the best
you
part
can
of-
hi- you can hide a lot of mistakes in volume.
I always thought that was true about singing as well.
Yeah, that too.
No, it's about venture investment, actually.
Oh, you can hide a lot. The nice thing about venture investment is mistakes are the assumed outcome, so you don't have to hide them.
Is that on your list?
Failure is not an option. It's a mandate.
It's a mandate.
It's a feature.
If you're not failing, you're not taking risk.
Okay, so we're running out of time here, amazingly. The best part of this is not meant for a discussion. This is just me saying that the best part of the McCartney interview with
Rick Rubin.
Rubin, thank you, is when he said how they chose him to play bass. And he said, well, the other two just said they wouldn't do it.
Wow.
Boom. Okay.
I feel so sorry for bass players, honestly.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
do.
It
get over
depends on the genre. Like if you're in Lou Reed's band, the bass player is like a superstar.
that. What's his name?
His name is
There it
is
is.
the bass
There-
player, Brent.
And there it is.
This was covered. This was covered equally effectively in a previous edition of the show. Okay, Twitter revenue went through the roof.
So did Snap.
Yeah, I don't care about Snap. Twitter revenue went through the roof. What's going on there?
Engagement.
Ads.
It's engagement. Revenue is a function of engagement, right, Michael?
It is a function of engagement, but yeah, they're. I mean, just scrolling lately, you see nothing but ads. They've just become very aggressive about selling ads and placing them, and probably their algorithms are pretty good about who they show their ads to. Otherwise, they wouldn't be selling so many.
They're trying to turn themselves into more of a destination where people stay there on the site more. I mean, that's Twitter Spaces, either the review thing, the newsletter stuff.
Yeah. It's all the different
It's-
businesses that they.
They're not contributing to revenue yet. This is a leading indicator of where they might go with all those startup costs.
Yeah, but I think also these are the kinds of things that will suck people into the tent, which is important, even if they're not immediately contributing to revenue.
Well, it just reminds me of things in the past where people said like about collaboration in the Y2K timeframe. Well, it doesn't really work. There's no provable outcome there that's meaningful. And then, of course, everything changed. The fact that Twitter is not only making money, that they're outperforming Wall Street is extraordinary.
The most interesting part of this is that guy that used to live at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Yeah, him.
He's not even in office, so he can't even take. He likes to take credit for how he made certain social media popular. Wow, he can't even do that in this case.
Doesn't matter.
I think
It may be his absence that has made it.
He'll still take credit. Is that?
Yeah. Either way, he'll come out and he'll go, no, they're doing great because of me.
Right.
Yeah, but so what?
TFG, man.
I just find that interesting. That's all.
The former
Not what you said. What Trump said.
TFG.
What does that mean, TFG?
The former guy.
Oh, okay.
Also known as Adolf Cheeto Jesus.
Tito.
Oh.
This is, boy,
Wow.
Tina, this show is just filled with sneak peeks.
Hey.
Filled with.
Don't spoil it.
Adolf.
They'll all
You
disappear.
just made it mean that there'll be no sneak peeks from on
You know
the
what
show.
Frank's
I don't
doing
mind.
is Frank is sneak peek bombing anyone else's potential sneak peek so that the only ones remaining at the end of the show are the non-mentioned ones, which by pure coincidence are Frank's.
Hey, can
Very
we bring
sophisticated
Tina?
observation by Keith.
Can we get Tina to just comment on how much everybody seems to like the sneak peeks, that you have created something that people vied to be a part of a sneak peek. Now, how does that feel to have that much of an influence beyond your usual influence on this?
Brent, I'm feeling super powerful.
You should. You know what? You should monetize the sneak peeks. Sneak peeks brought to you by Cheetos. I don't know. It would be
Get a sponsor just for the sneak peek. There you go.
sponsor the sneak peeks, and then that builds.
Oh, this is going so well now. Okay.
If there's anybody out there that wants to sponsor the sneak peeks, contact the Gillmor gang at.
Who knows? It's
Lower third.
T.me. Come on, Keith.
Yeah,
Lower
Keith.
third.
I was pointing.
T.me/Gillmor gang.
That's right.
That doesn't contact us exactly, does it?
Sure it does.
Okay.
Well, you got to work on your pitches too to get people to subscribe to stuff too.
Okay, Warner Media revenue
We'll
up.
talk, Brent, we'll talk.
Warner Media revenue up 30%.
HBO Max, all
Okay,
those.
Tell us quickly what it means. Why is that important? I think it's important.
Streaming.
What about it?
Streaming, it's important because they're at the forefront of major streaming advances.
Advertising sponsored streaming.
Yeah, AVODs, fast.
So they win.
Right now. But there's a lot of information out there right now that that Disney is nipping at the heels of the big players like Netflix. I don't know that if that's true. Nipping at the heels because they got 74 million more subscribers. I don't know. Netflix is pretty hard to beat right now in terms of total numbers.
Beating is not the same as nipping at the heels. Maybe they'll be nipping at the heels forever.
You know what? There's always some dog nipping at somebody's heels somewhere.
If you have a heel, you've got a nipper.
It'll get nipped.
Wow.
On that note,
Yeah.
later, guys.
All right. Smart TVs are by 2024, smart TVs, whatever that is, will be in 90% of homes.
Oh, Brent, we just lost Brent.
In the US.
Sounds reasonable.
No.
Yeah, and it's funny. There is a cycle. How long would you have kept an old black and white CRT? How long would you have kept a color CRT? How long would you have kept a plasma television set? There are these cycles, and things are pushed. Everything is being pushed out for smart TVs. I think I don't think there are any TVs out there right now. I'd be surprised that aren't smart TVs. There may be a handful of them that are. If they're not smart TVs, they're just monitors.
So
remember, the reason that smart TVs are being so popular is not because they're smart, not because people want the smartness. It's because they're spy TVs. Their prices are subsidized by the information that they gather. So the price of TVs now is much lower than it would be otherwise if they were dumb TVs.
I think the other thing is they're really cheap now.
That's why they're cheap. They're cheap because they can be monetized. The fact that you have a smart TV in your home means that there's another revenue stream besides the retail price or the wholesale price of the TV. There's continuing revenue to the manufacturers.
But I will say that I have Vizio smart TVs that has a UI. Because I test things, I've got Roku, Fire TV, and Apple TV, and Google's got a new Android TV thing that's cheap and very well done. The UIs are pretty equal, but the only performant one amongst all of them is the Apple TV. The new Apple TV especially, but
You've
even
said
the
that
older
a lot. You've mentioned that a number.
What does that mean,
of times.
performant?
Well, like the user interface is responsive to the remote control instantly. The streaming starts as soon as you switch to the channel. You don't have to wait. Whereas on the Vizio, it's like old-fashioned Windows machines where you click something and then 3 seconds later it happens.
Well, I agree with that. I mean, I have not hooked up my smart TV to the internet. The over-the-top services I get come through Apple TV or through an Amazon device, but I don't think most people have outboard internet attachments to their TV. They just hook up the TV to the internet and the information flows.
The new Google one.
LG is not getting any information from my TV viewing. Neither is Sony, because I'm not watching through their smart TV interface.
This is Google's Android TV. It's basically HDMI with a USB for power.
Right.
And it's actually almost as good as the Apple TV. It's 90% there, and it's a lot cheaper. And the UI is really good, especially if you use YouTube TV, because it's built around YouTube TV. So like all your recordings and everything show up. It's actually really good.
Dennis,
Okay, I'm buying that.
you have
Like,
to leave.
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay,
I think he wanted to say something.
well,
Well, I needed water. I needed water. So I think.
okay, I just wanted to make sure.
No, I raised my hand because I have a Mac Mini plugged into my TV, so I'm one of those people,
Yeah.
and I watch YouTube and stuff like that on my TV through my Mac Mini. That's all.
It's actually a good solution.
It's not bad. The question I have though is, what about security for all this? We're if everybody gets a smart TV, we're suddenly putting up hundreds of millions of new targets for bad guys.
I think there's going to be encryption at the edge. One of my companies in the UK is called Crypto Quantique. They basically reduced a quantum reader down to the size of a grain of rice, and they can embed it on a chip. And when the power goes on, they read the quantum state of the chip, which gives an encryption key that's the same every time you turn it on. And so it's encrypted in the silicon, so that you can't actually find out what that key is. And it leads to fully end-to-end encrypted streams. And I think that's where it all ends up, as long as governments allow us to have encryption.
I'd love to take that offline with you, because I don't understand how a quantum read can give you the same result every time.
Yeah, it's actually an Oxford University guy. He's Iranian, who patented it and invented it. Crypto Quantique's the company. And I think they publish a lot about what they do.
I'll look them up.
Okay, any other comments or topics? I hate that word.
No, I think we've kind of,
You mean a base plane seminar and we're done?
If we had longer, Steve, I would talk about Fred Wilson's post yesterday.
Yeah, but it's, we could read it and it would take about 30 seconds.
Yeah, but what's
Basically, he's
underneath
saying-
it? It's more
Yeah, but
what's underneath it.
what's underneath your newsletter this week, I think, comes out of that, and multiple other things. I think you've done a good job of summarizing that. There's definitely some stuff going on. The question is going to be who trusts it, and I think that's a long-term. I mean, if we're talking close and far out, I think that 2024 is like about here. And I think that, the full crypto moment is about out here. So that's a long way of saying you should look at, what is the name of your feed? Because I always confuse it with the thing that you stole it from.
that was the week it was.
Yeah.
Thatwastheweek.com.
Right. And Frank.
Or t.me/that was the week.
Perfect. I won't steal Brent's thunder, but I believe that he's working on a newsletter finally.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And Dennis's newsletter.
And Dennis, now that you are no longer a social denizen, where can we find your latest newsletter, and what do you think it's going to be about?
Oh, you can find my latest newsletter online. I just haven't contributed to it.
That's what I mean.
In a while. And yeah, interestingly, people are asking if they can buy advertising on something I haven't published in 2 weeks. It's bizarre.
Say
Really?
yes.
Which
Say
one?
yes, Dennis.
Because you have two.
I have two. I have the Age of Sustainability, and I have CRM Nation.
And which is the advertising?
People want to buy advertising on the CRM Nation thing. They're on review.com. I need to update them.
I think there's some very big CRM companies with deep pockets that need to be exposed to your readership.
There are big CRM companies. Big CRM companies have lots of money. I'm not sure that my readership is sufficiently different from their readership. make it a go. But that's neither here nor there. I have an article. I'm just going to say this. I have an article coming out on Harvard Business Review shortly, and who knows, that might do something.
When Davy Jones was pitched doing the Monkees, he said, "We're not as good as the Beatles," and everyone else said, "So what? It's a big market."
It's a big market. Yeah, for sure. We all bring our own ideas.
Frank,
Your newsletter.
your newsletter, what's going on there? Because I'm finding it increasingly difficult to get through it because there are so many interesting articles.
You know, it's first of all, you can get it by going to review and putting in my name, and it will come up, and that's good. What the newsletter is honestly, it's just stories that I stop and actually read, as opposed to just skimming. It's like, oh, that's interesting, and I try and put those stories into the newsletter, and they could be political, they could be tech, they could be cultural. I've been lately putting a lot of music in there, and just stuff that I'm interested in. I'm tempted to change the second line to "This is the shit I like."
Well, of the references on this list, the second one is from your newsletter. The third one is from your newsletter. The fifth one is from your newsletter.
I try to find. It's not that I look for obscure stuff. I just think that I search places in these areas that might not be your go-to place. I mean, I probably go to the Wrap before I would go to Newsweek, for example. It's just I try to find interesting sources.
What
And
is
then
Newsweek anyway these days?
what's that?
What is Newsweek anyway these days?
Well, it's a very difficult publication online to navigate. That's what Newsweek is. It is not, honestly, you can get it online, and I actually gave it a shot for a while and eventually just gave up on it.
It seems to me it's just some kind of vestige that's using the brand.
Yeah,
There's not much there.
feels that way. It does. But there's just so many great sources for the stuff that we talk about. Look, I just as soon tag something from TechCrunch because it's always interesting, especially that very interesting guy, Michael Arrington, and what he's up to these days.
Yeah, well,
That's a good segue, except I've got another call in 3 minutes. I can't respond.
well, we're just trying to run out the clock.
Okay, that's it. I got nothing else.
All right. I want to thank our producer and director, Tina Chase Gillmor.
Thank you. Nice show. I enjoyed it. Lots of energy. Thanks for being here.
I want to thank Dennis Pombriant. Welcome.
Okay, thanks for having me. It's nice to see everybody.
I want to thank somebody knocking at the door. Go
Somebody knocking at the door. Somebody ringing the bell.
Somebody ringing a bell.
Okay, I want to thank Michael Markman. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Frank Radis.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, gangsters. Always pleasure to learn stuff from you guys.
Keith Tier.
Thank you all so much.
Thanks to Brent Larry. And thanks to everybody who showed up, and especially those who didn't. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey, no